guys, Trevor Hunter here at Dirt Bike Test. Today we're riding the all-new YZ450F for 2023. We're here at the Goat Farm at the Star Racing compound, and we're riding this all-new bike. And when we say all-new, it is new. Very few parts carry over. Most notably, the wheels carry over, so if you have spare wheels, that's not a problem. Suspension components carry over. All the valving has been updated. The components themselves do carry over, so if you have spare sets of that, you're good. Handlebars, grips, just very basic stuff like that stays the same, but for the most part it's all new. Yamaha's goal for this bike was to improve cornering, more broader, easier to ride engine, new bodywork that's slimmer and more compact, and an updated rider triangle that's more modern with a flatter seat profile and a better peg to seat to handlebar ratio. So very exciting bike to be riding this weekend. Yamaha's, they've gone all out on this machine. They spent countless hours in R&D and a lot of the little intricacies that they've gone over with us. Yeah, it's very impressive what they've done and some of the small changes on paper, but we think will and could be a very big change on the track. Another big thing is the weight reduction in this bike. It's an over 5-pound weight reduction, which is astronomical. This is maybe one of the, if not the lightest Japanese bike, and very competitive with the KTMs. So we'll see how that translates to the track. The old bike was heavier, but didn't necessarily feel that heavy on the track. So we'll see if that weight reduction really translates to the track and if it's better or worse or indifferent. So stay tuned. We'll get this riding going. Alright, we just wrapped up a day of riding on the 2023 Yamaha YZ450F, and it didn't disappoint. I was a big fan of the previous generation bike, and I was a little nervous coming in, just being an all-new bike, with how much they've changed. I just didn't want them to ruin what they had. And a lot of their talking points were they tried to keep their strong points and elevate their weak points, and I feel they did that and more. This bike overall is really solid. Improvement over the last machine for sure, in my opinion. And it's only our first day, and we're on a East Coast track where we're in conditions we're not used to. So that could have something to do with it. It's something we'll play with when we get to back on the West Coast. But overall, the bike was really good. The motor has a lot of power. The old bike had a lot of power too, but it's a little kind of jerky and just hard to manage, hard to ride, especially if you got tired or you're kind of intimidated by the 450s. Whereas this one, it has a lot of power, but the delivery is smooth and it's much more controllable and easy to ride, but you still have a lot of power going down and hooking up. And we struggled with today is just keeping the front wheel on the ground. It almost felt like we had a scoop tire on, whereas you're accelerating and the front wheel just wants to lift up out of every corner and down every straightaway. So that's kind of one of the things we kind of struggled with, but at the same time you could get through it. We changed the mapping a little bit. We rode with the stock mapping, which is all zeros, and then we put the linear map in as well, and that helped a little bit. Then to go even further, we put the traction control on low in the linear map, and that just helped just keep the front end down, a little more mellow, easier to ride. And then when I got tired, it wasn't quite as much of a handful. But overall, from the bottom to the mid to top, the thing has a ton of power. Easier to ride though, for sure, than the last generation bike, I would say. Plenty of power for all the guys out there. Move on to suspension. Again, with the Yamaha, the 450 motocrosser, I wasn't a huge fan of the suspension. It was pretty good and probably one of the best for the 450s in stock trim, but I still kind of just didn't have a ton of comfort and I didn't have a lot of confidence riding it at times. But today I jumped on this thing right away and it felt really good stock. Sag, we started at 97 millimeters, and by the end of the day I graduated to 101 millimeters. I'm one that typically runs more sag than most, just that's what I tend to prefer. So it's just a personal preference that I settled on 101 millimeters. And we stiffen up the fork 2 to 3 clicks in the compression just to help keep the fork up. The dirt here is super tacky and grabby, and I just feel in the rear end was right a little high, so we took out some high speed a quarter turn of high speed to help combat that. And then just to keep the front end up as well on decel, I stiffened it up like 2 to 3 clicks on compression, and that just balanced out the bike a lot more for me. It wasn't super rough today, but they had a couple of man-made braking bumps, and they left one of the straightaways kind of untouched from the pro guys. So we got a little bit of a suspension test today, plus all the big jumps and everything. But yeah, overall we got really happy with the suspension of this bike, and just a few clicks and a little adjustment of the sag, and we got it working pretty good. On the handling, this is another huge change. It really feels like a much different bike. It turns way better, it feels lighter, it's thinner. You could hop on from like a Honda or Cowie or whatever and hop on this bike, and you're not going to feel the extra width like the old bike does. So that was a big improvement. Like I said, it corners really well. Also to mention, the bike did lose 5 to 6 pounds depending on what you read. And all you could say is you definitely feel it out in the track. The YZ never felt all that heavy before, compared to its paperweight. But now the bike feels much, much lighter. One of the lighter feeling bikes on the track. Very flickable, very easy to maneuver. That's something that kind of struggled with on the old bike, whereas this bike is night and day better, night and day different. That less weight. And also to note, something we were nervous of is losing that weight, you lose stability. And so far today, we didn't feel we lost that stability, which Yamaha is known for. We just lost a bunch of weight. It's easier to maneuver and flick around and in the ruts and get into turns and stuff like that. It's much easier to do, but it also has that stability that we've come to like on the Yamaha. Some guys were struggling with like tighter corners, but for me, I was pretty happy with the cornering. And yeah, the geometry, the rider triangle, all that felt much improved. And yeah, overall, I would say almost everything is better on this bike. Like I said, it's different track, different conditions, so we'll test that on the West Coast. But for now, we're really happy. So stay tuned to Dirt Bike Test for more, and we'll see you on the track.